Hip-hop just witnessed a public execution. And no, it was not a rap war. It was on a live SDRM. Have you ever seen someone enter into a ring believing they're the champ and walk out? Did you just get smacked by history? Yes, that was Jim Jones. And who is doing the slapping? Oh, simply Nas, aka Godson, the lyrical assassin, and Benzino, the man who still believes he can govern the culture with a flip phone. Last night, however, was different. In front of thousands of people, Jim Jones was roasted, toasted, and folded like filthy clothes at a Bronx laundromat. You thought price battles were messy. No. This was a live lyrical genocide. What began as a friendly conversation escalated into a full-fledged rap intervention, with Nas essentially telling Jim, "You don't belong here, champ. You're a featured rapper in a world of legends," and Benzino, that individual, was only pouring fuel to an already started fire. So, what actually happened during the livestream? Why was Jim Jones treated like an unpaid intern? And what caused NS to snap after so many years of silence? Grab some popcorn. This one is awful. Let's backtrack for a second, because before we deconstruct the total destruction of Jim Jones that took place on that now notorious livestream, we need to understand why this moment seemed like karma dressed in Timberlands, finally storming down the hallway of hip-hop justice. So, here is the scenario. Jim Jones, a Dipset veteran, self-proclaimed street commander, and the man who somehow made ranting into a microphone seem like culture, wanted to say something about Nas. Yes, Nas. You know, the dude who released Illmatic before the majority of these young rappers were even born. The one whose pen game spawned generations of lyricists. That made me nauseous. So what did Jim Jones do? He pulled a brilliant maneuver. He poked the bear. This all started months ago when Jim casually questioned Nas's impact on modern hip-hop. Yeah, Nas is cool, but is anyone really checking for him these days? He added, pausing, "Let us all take a minute of quiet for the illusion in that statement." That little jab. That passive-aggressive strike at a hip-hop icon. It did not go unnoticed. Not by the fans, not by Nas, and certainly not by the hip-hop gods, who appear to have decided, okay, let's teach Jim Jones a lesson. Let's be fair, Jim Jones is no stranger to controversy. This man has built a profession out of drama. From Dipset's internal, from beefs to a falling out with Cameron to the time he fake sobbed on Love and Hip Hop, the man has been a disaster. And we haven't even discussed the years he spent proving to the world that he is more than simply a ball player. But here's the thing. There is a distinction between remaining relevant by antics and being respected through legacy. Nas has always played the long game. He does not rant. He does not throw tantrums. He sits back and watches, and when he talks, you can feel it. So when he eventually answered, not with a diss track, but with a quiet, measured livestream appearance, the internet exploded. And, just to be sure the message was obvious, Nas did not arrive alone. He had backup, unexpected backup. The type of backup that causes you to double-check, press the live button and refresh your screen in astonishment. Enter benzino.now. Say anything you want about Benzino, and believe me, we have. When this man wants to be dirty, he comes up with notes, a grudge, and a front-row ticket to disaster. The stage was set. Thousands of viewers tuned in. Twitter is on fire with comments, screen recordings, and is about to erupt. And then Naja spoke. Not loud or furious, just surgical. He glanced at the camera and remarked, "You know, some people confuse volume with worth. Just because you yell doesn't mean you have something to say." Say, boom, there was instant stillness on the Jim Jones front. You could almost hear the Dipset chain hitting the floor down. Now, let's discuss what made this live stream moment becomes much more terrible. It wasn't simply Nas demonstrating his poetic prowess. It was the seamless way he deconstructed Jim's entire character without raising his voice. He broke it's broken down into individual points. Nas' legacy spans decades. Hits. Nas has classics. Nas had a cultural effect by helping defining the sound that Jim Jones and others took from then. As a true surgeon of In the Shadows, he delivered the night's coldest line. Jim's career soared with a hook that someone else composed. I write legacy, not jingles. Phew. And this wasn't even the part where things got nasty. No, that was only the introductory scene. Because, just as Nas reclined back, pleased with his poetic open-heart surgery, Benzino came in. I could see from the sneer on his face that he had been wanting to say this for years. Energy was heavy in the air. He leaned toward the microphone and said, "Look, I've been in this field long enough to recognize who is real and who is reality TV. Jim Jones. He's on VH1, not hip-hop. That's when the comments section erupted. Jim Jones just got fried. Turn the stream off. Bro, you can't recover from this. Dipset has suffered its biggest defeat since Kim wore pink. By this moment, the stream had descended into complete anarchy. Fans were screen filming as if their life depended on it. Blogs were preparing headlines, and Twitter was already proclaiming it the L of the year. But don't pretend like something happened out of nowhere. The hostility between Jim and Nas has been simmering for quite some time. There has always been a subtle division in hip-hop. Thinkers versus screamers, authors versus hustlers, worldly nausea versus gyms. Jim Jones has always focused heavily on persona, fashion, street cred, and viral moments. Nas's been in the background constructing empires, remaining silent until the occasion needs a microphone. So, when that moment occurred on a random Tuesday Night Live webcast, it seemed less Jim Jones attempted to fight back, but it felt more like a history lecture, like the instructor suddenly standing up in the midst of the class and saying, "All right, enough cloning. Let's talk real music, but don't get it twisted." Oh yes, he tried. He plunged into the stream with his typical intensity, loud, lively, full of nah, and hold up energy. Unfortunately, it was too late. The audience had turned. The story had altered, and he appeared to be a man attempting to swim in his own ego pool rather than a rapper. And here is where part 1 finishes. Because Jim Jones tried to rebound. Just as he sought to defend his identity and bring the audience back on his side, Nas fired another verbal bomb that shut everything down. And that is exactly where we take up the footage. Jim Jones, obviously shaken and gasping for air in front of a live audience, attempted to salvage face. He leaned in, he cracked his neck, threw that fake street tough face into the camera, and muttered, "Yo, listen. I respect legends, but don't play with me like I ain't put in work." And there, ladies and gents, was the moment Nas decided to reload. Without missing a beat, Nas simply said, "Work. Jim, you have had the same mixtape energy for 20 years. That is not progress. It is repetition. There's a difference." You could actually feel the crowd cringe. The live stream conversation exploded. "Obituary," said another. It wasn't even combat rap. It was poetic justice delivered on a live stream platter. And if that wasn't enough, Nas leaned in and dropped this atomic phrase, "I skimmed through your whole discography to get to the feature, so game over. But wait, this is hip-hop, and when it rains, it pours." Within minutes, yes, minutes, leaked DMS, industry sources, and anonymous insiders began to surface with stories that took this entire feud from heated to practically explosive. The mysterious A&R revealed a series of claimed texts between Jim Jones and different executives in which he nearly begged for a versus war against Nas to demonstrate his cultural significance. The messages read, "Let me get Nas. I'll bring the streets. I've got the audience." According to the source, executives left Jim on read without a response or a green signal. He sought to create a moment and was ignored by the very individuals he believed would support him, which only contributed to his public humiliation. However, things become more interesting. Another phony story arose that Jim Jones spent over $100,000 on public relations, TikTok influencers, and streaming farms to promote his relevance after the livestream became viral and not in his favor. The supposed invoice breakdown was $20,000 for fake. He spent $15,000 on influencer tweets, $30,000 on streaming boosts for his current track, and $35,000 on a crisis management company that, according to sources, just urged him to log off and pray in. This man supposedly reduced the price of a midtown condo attempting to clean up a digital mess he stumbled into on his own. Meanwhile, Nas, he was already logged off, drinking tea in quiet like a retired samurai who just cleaned blood off his blade. And the public reaction Twitter timelines became digital graveyards. Meme pages had a banquet, and false viral tweets, like Jim Jones was just a guest at a Nazi and still got evicted. That moment when you realize hollering Balin can't prevent you from getting ether. Jim's next mixtape better be named Apology Letter Volume 1. Even celebrities joined in, or at least the phony ones were going to pretend they did. Charlemagne the God supposedly stated on The Breakfast Club, Jim had a midlife crisis in real time. Now stepped in like a god and out like a ghost. It was stunning. Fake wrote, "This is why you stay in your lane. Joe Button doesn't want to miss a messy moment." That was lyrically aided suicide. But the most savage, the bogus reaction, came from Nas's purported ex-associate, who said, "Naja didn't even blink. Naja didn't even blink. That is the difference." Jim argues as if he were still paying for studio time. Ouch. Now let's speak about Jim's attempted comeback. Because, in traditional manner, he was not going to take it lightly. The following morning, he allegedly went live from his automobile. Because, of course, he was wearing sunglasses indoors and directly addressed his followers with the most overused phrase in hip-hop, damage control history. You all know what it is. There are no losers, just lessons. I'm still outdoors. Still outdoors, bro. At this moment, the streets are urging you to go back inside and reconsider your life choices. But the drama did not end there. Fans began digging. Old clips. Jim's criticism of other legends has resurfaced, including belittling K. Razwan, insulting Talib Kweli, and claiming in an old interview that Illmatic was overhyped. Overhyped? Oh, you mean the record that only moved the poetic terrain of hip-hop? These unearthed clips fueled the flames and turned the public against Jim Jones even more. For many, this was more than simply a one-night roast. This was Jim was finally cashing in after years of being looked down upon by the hip-hop scene. Even stated Spotify insiders said Jim's streaming had decreased by 27% in just 48 hours following the live show. Meanwhile, Nas's streams allegedly increased by 36%. Fans are rediscovering Ether Stillmatic and Magic 2 as a tribute to the art of mature destruction. A parody fan website even wrote, "You came for a king. You left with a crown made of L's." But the greatest false moment, a meme that went popular displaying a Dipset chain with a for sale tag and the remark, "Available now, slightly used, comes with emotional baggage." So, where does this leave Jim Jones? Publicly humiliated, digitally ridiculed, and musically humbled, his fans are attempting to twist it. His crew is in panic mode, and the culture has already moved on to Nas, who is sipping green juice and counting residuals. Because, as Jim tries one more time to save his reputation, the aftermath becomes even more terrible. The aftermath of this live stream is much harsher on camera, with bogus legal threats and imaginary business sponsors dropping out. So Jim Jones logs back in, clearly tired, hoodie up, attempting to offer "I don't care" energy but delivering nothing. "But buddy, I'm hurt." He begins with the conventional damage control phrase, "Y'all making this bigger than it is. I'm not even phased. I still receive money. But do you know what the culture heard? Please stop. I have sobbed 3 times today, and I miss the old days." Because, while Jim was out here attempting to downplay it, the damage had already started. Let's begin with the bogus industry backlash. According to one unidentified executive from a Jim's intended presence at a big event, let's call it rap, Royalty Reloaded, was suddenly removed from the roster within 24 hours of the live stream. Why? As our source describes it, "Look, we booked him for nostalgia. After that live webcast, all we got was negative press. Nobody wants to see a meme make a headline." It was not simply festivals. A bogus footwear brand partnership Jim was reportedly discussing, a custom Dipset Kicks collaboration, also apparently fell through. The reason why followers swamped the brand's page with clown emojis and phrases like "Do not allow this man to put his name on anything with a legacy." Corporate sponsors dislike controversy unless they are winning. Jim Jones was now losing severely. Then came tales of legal threats. According to unsubstantiated, clearly made-up sources, Jim's legal team considered sending Nas a cease. For what purpose exactly? That section was foggy. Some believe it was for defamation. Others described it as public humiliation. One viral meme said, "Jim Jones suing for damages after catching a lyrical fade on livestream." Nas, Jim's public relations staff was working tirelessly to one unidentified expert reportedly said, "Lean into the defeat. Own it. Be self-aware." But Jim headed in the opposite direction. He doubled down, claiming that the live broadcast was altered, that Nas wasn't even talking facts, and that the internet had warped everything. This was error number 57. Reddit threads exploded, as did YouTube. Twitter exploded into a battle zone with clips, edits, and breakdowns like it was rap CSI. One viral video, named Nas Violates Jim Jones Frame-by-Frame Breakdown, received over 2 million views in 3 days, but arguably the biggest blow of all came from the hip-hop community itself. Rappers who formerly shared stages with Jim Jones were either silent or suddenly aboard the Nas train. and fake statements began to appear everywhere. Jim attempted to out-rap Nas like a lawnmower attempting to race a Tesla. Styles P most likely didn't say this, but it sounds like fire. It was evident that the culture had taken sides. Jim writes captions, Nas writes books, and the Lupe disaster was unquestionably false. Jim Jones was not on the winning team. Now, let's speak about the financial ramifications. According to bogus insider claims, Jim's current single hurried out post-live Dream as a comeback hymn. Bombed so terribly that DSP supposedly removed it from key playlists within 48 hours. One insider was cited as stating, "We tested it, but listeners kept bypassing it after the first stanza." According to the same source, Jim Jones spent up to $50,000 attempting to promote the music on TikTok, paying dancers, influencers, and even the hashtag Jones Revenge movement fizzled terribly. But Nas's library enjoyed a surge, with Spotify reporting a phony jump of 41% in Nas-related streams. Vinyl sales of Illmatic unexpectedly increased again, including the 18th anniversary reissue. But here's the bit that really stings. Fans began clamoring for Jim Jones' official retirement, not as a joke. As a compassion act, hashtags like hashtag respectfully, retire Jim Jones, hashtag DIPSET done, and hashtag Jim Jones vs. Quiet trended for 2 days straight. Fake Twitter parody accounts appeared. It was Balan Utin, the thick of the pandemonium. Live feeds, lost despite sponsorships and digital dragging. Jim still had one move left, and it was desperate. According to a phony leak, Jim Jones apparently went out to Cameron. Yes, the same Cameron he's been on cam allegedly ghosted him in reaction to their ongoing feud over reuniting Dipset for the sake of the culture and reclaiming relevance. According to a false insider, Cam has been waiting for this man to fall for years. This was delicious payback without uttering a word. So what's left? A rapper who pricked the wrong legend. A live webcast that turned into a digital tomb. The fanbase is caught between preserving a legacy and laughing at a collapse. While Nas sits in quiet like a proud sensei who just gave the world a lesson. Don't come for a king unless you're wearing classic armor. This wasn't simply a diss, or even a quarrel. It was a reckoning, a cultural reset, a reminder that respect is earned, and Nas had already cashed in. And with that, the curtains fall on this video of this tale. So now the dust has cleared. Or has it? After seeing Jim Jones be converted into a live broadcast cautionary, the real issue is whether he will recover or simply fade into meme history. We saw a man go from "I'm on the streets" to "please remove the film" in less than 48 hours. Which is a speed run to irrelevance if we've ever seen one. But maybe, just maybe, this was what upcall hip-hop needed. Artists would think twice before approaching a lyrical icon with a 30-year history and a fan following that still cites Matic like scripture. Maybe Jim Jones will take a lengthy break from live broadcasts and create a show called Ballin', but broken, who knows? But here's what we do know, Nas didn't just win, he reminded we're going to show everyone what a true legacy looks like. No drama, no ranting, just cold.com. Silent devastation. And it's more gangster than anything Jim has said in a microphone since 2006. So now it's our turn. Over to you, the actual judges of the culture. Was Jim out of pocket? Did Nas go too far? Do you believe Jones can recover from this burning mess? Leave your opinions in the comments section below. We're watching. Like and subscribe, because, believe us, this story isn't finished. Not in this business. Not with these large egos, and especially not while live streaming are still free. Until next time, maintain your bars are up and your mouth is closed, because you never know when Nas could log back in.